Okay, let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive today into a visual, this diagram showing a pretty modern data architecture.
Hmm.
And our goal really is to figure out how tools like, DBT and snowpark actually fit together in this,
Right.
how they work in these different layers to get data from just raw logs, basically, all the way to uh, usable dashboards.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about this diagram, I think, is how it clearly shows these distinct stages. It's a logical flow.
A specific path.
Exactly, a path from the raw data source,
Yeah,
like it shows here, transactional logs, maybe from S3, moving through these processing steps until it's actually ready for, well, whatever you need it for.
Yeah.
Dashboards, KPIs, alerts.
Right, right. And looking at the diagram, that path seems to kick off in the landing zone. It shows Snowflake there just for
It's
ingestion.
the idea. Think of it as the entry point.
Okay.
So data like those S3 logs just lands there in Snowflake,
Right.
raw, untouched. Snowflake's good for that initial dump, because it handles different formats easily and scales up,
Makes sense, like the loading dock.
pretty much. And from that loading dock, it moves into the next zone, the staging raw layer.
And that's where DBT first shows up.
Correct. The diagram points to DBT being used here for cleaning and standardizing. It's fundamental stuff.
So not business logic yet.
Not really, no. It's more about getting a reliable foundation,
Hmm.
like consistent data types, handling nulls, maybe some basic cleanup. You want a trustworthy version of the raw data before you start really transforming it. DBT helps lock that down.
Okay, okay. But then DBT appears again in the diagram in the next layer, the curated layer. So what's different here?
Ah, good question. So in staging, DBT is about that initial cleanup. Here, in curated, the focus shifts. The diagram says, build reusable models for BI.
Ah, BI models.
Exactly. You're taking that clean, standardized data, and now you're shaping it specifically for business intelligence. Think aggregate tables, maybe those conform dimensions like product or customer that everyone uses.
So analysts can just query it easily.
That's the goal. Make it trustworthy and simple for reporting and analysis.
Got it. So we've landed it, cleaned it, curated it for BI. What's this advanced layer then? That's where snowpark comes in, according to the diagram.
Right. This is where things get a bit more sophisticated. Snowpark is used here to, as it says, enrich with behavioral logic, flag anomalies.
Behavioral logic.
Yeah, think complex analysis that might be tricky or inefficient with just SQL, maybe analyzing user journeys or using Python libraries for anomaly detection. Snowpark lets you run Python, Scala, or Java code right inside Snowflake.
Oh, interesting. So you're bringing in more powerful programming capabilities directly onto the data.
Precisely. For those more complex, often algorithmic, tasks that go beyond standard BI transformations.
Okay, that makes sense. Leverage Snowflake, but use other tools when needed. And then finally, all this work feeds the presentation layer.
Yep, that's the end zone. This layer is what the BI tool plugs into. Dashboards, KPIs, alerts, they all consume data from here.
Because it's all been processed and validated through the previous steps.
Exactly. Landed, cleaned, modeled, maybe enriched with advanced stuff. So the data hitting the BI tool is ideally reliable, well-structured, and ready for consumption. Actionable insights, hopefully.
So pulling it all together, why this specific setup, this layering with Snowflake, DBT, Snowpark? Why is that effective?
Well, I think the key is really the separation of concerns. Each layer has a job.
Right.
Landing is just ingestion. Staging is cleaning. Curated is building those core business views with DBT ensuring consistency. Advanced adds specialized logic with Snowpark where needed. It makes the whole pipeline, easier to manage, easier to debug.
And easier to trust the output.
Definitely. You build quality controls at each stage. Using DBT across 2 layers brings consistency to transformations, version control, testing. Snowpark gives you that escape hatch for complex logic without messing up your core BI models. It's about turning that messy, raw data into something flexible and trustworthy for, well, all sorts of different uses.
Makes the complexity manageable.
That's the idea. This kind of structured, layered approach really brings clarity and governance, which you need when data gets complicated.
Which leaves a final thought, maybe for you listening. How could applying a similar layered structure, thinking about these distinct stages, help you tackle your own data challenges and make sure your data is truly ready for analysis?